Om Jnanatimrandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome, dear devotees, and apologies to those who are going to watch this recording later on Facebook. There's something wrong with my system here. It doesn't allow me to record and broadcast. Okay, so here we go. What is the verse for today? Is going to tell me the verse for today. Vaishnavi Mataji has come. She's the one who keeps track of all these things. So
or 25 or 24? No?
You have to give me precise.
Mataji,
Vaishnavi, what words are we supposed to read today?
what, 25?
24.
24. Bingo. All right. So shall we get started? And I'm going to start sharing my screen. And let's see. Here we go. Chapter number 4. Chapter number 4. I don't have chapter number 4. Okay. So verse number is 24. Okay. And let's get going. I think Sukomalade Mataji has also joined us back. So has Sumi, Varchana, Sutapa, Vinyavali. I think that kind of covers all those who have joined us. Maybe others will come later on. So we'll just get one there. Okay.
Letters are very small, Mataji.
Okay, we'll make them big. Is this big enough?
That's enough. That's enough.
Okay. All right. 4.24. Easy. 424. Easy to remember it that way. And it is a very, very famous verse. Brahma arpanam brahma havir brahmagnau brahmana hutam brahmeva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. Listen to this verse carefully. Brahma arpanam brahma havir brahmagnau brahmana hutam brahmeva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. Brahmarpanam brahma havir brahmagnau brahmana hutam brahmeva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. And let's look at the meanings to appreciate this words. Brahma, spiritual in nature. Arpanam, contribution. Brahma, the supreme. Havi is butter. Brahma is spiritual. Agnau, in the fire of consummation, the fire that consumes. Brahmana, by the spirit soul. Hutam, offered. Brahma, spiritual kingdom. Eva, certainly. Tena, by him. Gantavyam, to be reached. Brahma, spiritual. Karma, in activities. Samadhina, by complete absorption. Okay. So, quick question about this particular verse. How many times the word Brahma has been repeated here?
6.
6. Exactly right, right? So, if we know Brahma, Brahma Arpanam, right? Brahma is, the word Brahma is used in the terms of spirit, right? And so anything that is spiritual in nature has the word Brahma in it. Do you know of any other word which is spiritual in nature and which has the word Brahma in it?
Brahma Shamhita.
Brahma Samhita. Yes, that's good. That's correct. That's a spiritual book. So definitely it's spiritual.
Brahma Jyoti.
Brahma Jyoti. Exactly. Right. So that's also spiritual. But we also see the word Brahma used for Lord Brahma himself. Right. And we know that Lord Brahma, right? Then Lord Brahma is a Jiva soul, right? Anybody, you and I can be elevated to the post of Brahma if we follow certain processes, right?
The whole Brahmand. Brahma.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about that. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. Okay. So, yeah. So Brahma. So we use the word Brahma for Lord Brahma because of his special birth, right? He is not born of a human being, right? He comes out from where?
From the navel of Lord
The navel of Lord
Krishna.
Krishna.
Lord Vishnu? Which Vishnu?
Lord Krishna, Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? So he comes out from the womb, from the navel of Vishnu, right? Not Krishna. Because Vishnu is an expansion, sub-expansion of Krishna. In one sense, they are the same, but in certain sense, they are different, right? So, so that's why the term Brahma is used for him, right? So, Brahmarpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Right? So, I'm going to mute all of you right now. Okay? And I'm going to recite, and you recite with me. Okay? Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. I'm watching your lips. Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Focus with full attention on the verse. Brahma Arpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Okay, so now we have recited this verse for a few times. What I would like you to do now is, for the next time I'm going to recite it, you focus on the words, because I'm going to ask you, other than Brahma, which is repeated 6 times in this verse, I want you to remember what other words have been used in this particular verse. Okay, so are you ready for this? If you're ready, then give me a thumbs up. All righty. Okay. Brahmarpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahmarpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahmarpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahmarpanam Brahma Have, Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam, Brahmeva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. Now you can unmute yourself and tell me.
Havir, Uttam, Gantavyam.
One word.
Oh, sorry.
One word. Okay. So, Havi, okay.
Uttam,
Arpranam, Agnau, Utam,
Gantavyam,
Gantavyam,
One word.
Samadhina,
One word. One person, one word. Give a chance to others also.
Samadhina,
Samadhina. Brahmarpanam Brahmahutam Brahmagno Brahmana.
No, Mataji, first line will be Havir.
Brahmana.
Havi butter.
Brahmana Hutam Brahmanevati Nagantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir.
Karma,
Brahma Karma. Samadhina. Brahma Karma. Samadhina. Karma is also one word that came there, right? Brahmanevati Nagantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Say that again.
Tena,
Tena Gantavyam.
Hutam.
Isn't
Hutam.
Gantavyam word very nice? Yeah. Hutam is also nice, right? Okay, so let's go back and start looking at the words again. This time, now that you're familiar with the words which are used here, we will go and look at some more. And that is Brahma means spiritual in nature. Arpanam means to contribute whatever you have given, right? Arpan kar rahe hain. And then havi means
Butter.
butter, right? Havi, nice to remember that. Havi, yes, butter. And then Agnau means
The
Fire.
Agni,
the fire. Yeah, the fire that consumes everything, fire of consummation. Then Hutam is,
offered.
offer,
so Havi Hutam means
Butter offering.
Offering of the butter.
offering the butter or offer the butter, butter which is offered, right? Brahma Hutam. Okay. And then Gantavya means to be reached.
To be reached.
to be
Right.
reached destination.
Prema means by him, and karma is activities. And what is
Activities.
Samadhi?
By
Complete
complete
absorption.
In complete absorption.
Complete absorption. So can you give me some examples of Samadhi?
Meditation.
Well, meditation is a translation of Samadhi, but yeah, that's one
Yeah.
example of Samadhi. Yeah. Is that the only Samadhi?
No.
Okay. Then tell me more.
Full concentration on something is Mataji.
That is the
Samadhi.
meaning. I'm looking for examples. Examples of when you can have full concentration. Did you ever have
When you're teaching, when we are listening to Guru Maharaj's lecture,
when you're listening to Guru Maharaj lecture, do we have Samadhi?
Absorbed.
Very nice.
absorbed totally.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. All right. Any other things any other times that you can have Samadhi?
Cooking.
While cooking, you can have Samadhi. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Samadhi just means total attention. Meditation just means total attention. So you can meditate on a problem to find the solution. Concentrate, look at the
Yes.
problem from various aspects and angles, try to look for a solution. So that is also Samadhi, right? So basically what he's saying here is that Samadhi means total absorption. If you get totally absorbed in something.
Mataji, examination is also total samadhi.
When
Because
you are
when we are writing, we are totally absorbed in the question to find the answer.
right. So yeah, just give me a second here. All right. So so now here, let's look at this particular verse where this verse is talking
Absorbed
about,
in Krishna consciousness, Mataji.
yeah. So a person who's fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is also of the same spiritual nature, right? So absolute basically, they're using the term absolute in the sense of spiritual, just as this world is not this material world where we are right now is not an absolute world. It's a world of duality, right? They're twos, right? Black and white, heat and cold, good and bad, happiness, distress, like that. And so when they're using the word absolute, they're saying that consummation is also spiritual and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So whatever is offered is also spiritual in nature, right? So basically he's saying Dharma Arpanam Brahma Havi. So here there is a conversation going on about Yajna, right? Arpanam, Huta, Agnau, Havi, right? So if somebody is talking about there's a butter, there is fire. So basically we are talking about what comes to your mind. Brahma Arpanam,
Yajna.
Yajna and then
Yajna.
Havan.
Right? Yeah. So Yajna comes into the mind, right? So basically this verse is talking about Yajna, and Krishna has actually talked about Yajna quite a bit up until now in the Bhagavad Gita, like that. So we have to just recollect that when we were reading our when we were reading civilizations of the world, right? Babylonian civilization, Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, Indus Valley civilization, right? And so which is known as the Aryan civilization. And if you remember from the second verse of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is tam tatha kripiya vishtam ashnu purna kulekshanam. So Arjuna's eyes became full of tears. He was so full of compassion. He was crying for the fact that he had to kill his relatives, right? And so at that time, Krishna says, Kutashva kashmalam idam vishame sam upastitam anarya justam. So he says, from where has these impurities arisen into you? Anarya. It is un-Aryan in nature. Whatever you're talking about is un-Aryan nature. So what does that mean? Aryan civilization. What does that mean? He's saying you are not behaving like an Arya. So how does the Arya behave? Right? We need to know that. So an Aryan civilization is a civilization that knew that there is a spiritual aspect to life as well. So as they were living their lives, it was not necessarily just this material world. They were civilized. They had a particular method of living. They had rules and regulations. It was not just that. They were talking about something beyond the material. So our Indus Valley civilization or Aryan civilization is known for that, for knowing the fact that there are two worlds. There's a material world and there's a spiritual world. And even in the material world, they know that there are different realms in the material world. And we know of the realm. There are 14 realms, right? Chauda Bhuvan that we talk about. There are 14 realms. And so there are higher realms and there are lower realms. And so how do I connect? How do I go, right? So you must have heard the word portal used. I used to work for Oracle and there was a product called Oracle Portal. Right. So portal is you can understand portal to be kind of like a hole from where you go and connect to something else or enter. For example, for the ships used to come to a seaport. So what was a port? At a port where the ships would come and, from that area, which was the port, then goods would be transferred and ships would come and things like that. So that's a port. So the word portal comes from port. And so there is this higher world, which is realm, which is spiritual. And then there is material realm, the material world, which is where we are. And then even within the material world, there are realms, right? So how do I go from one realm to another realms, right? Like, for example, I'm right now in my bedroom. And if I have to go to the bathroom, I have to go to a door. So that door is my portal, which will allow me to get in, right? So portal is nothing but a doorway through which you connect and then things can pass through that hole. So so there is this heavenly realm, for example, where the Devtas live, right? The heavenly planet, the Swarga Loka, right? And ours is Martya Loka, where we live. So to the portal, how do we connect? How do we connect with that upper realm? I'm in the Martya Loka. The upper realm could be Swarga Loka, still in the material world, or I might want to go and connect to the spiritual world, right? So I have to go to some door, some portal, right? So the way this cosmos has been created, the world has been created, the portal between the material world and the other realms, or our world, this Earth planet where we are, or the Martya Loka where we are, or the middle planetary system where we are, from here, trying to go to a higher realm is through a portal, and that portal is called yajna. That portal is yajna, right? So through that portal, we will offer things to people. Okay? And so what do we offer?
Havi.
Butter.
We offer butter, right? Okay, just give me 1 second. I need to take care of this now. Sorry.
Butter to the fire.
Okay. So so through that portal, so it's a very interesting thing that you're sitting here and you have this yajna as your portal, which is in front of you. And so there is this yajna kunda. And in that yajna kunda, you are offering havi. Well, we heard havi here, which is butter, but other things also, right? Like, what else do you offer?
Things.
Karma
Fruits,
Samadhi, na.
grains.
You offer grapes, right? And your fruits and all that, right? So from here, you are putting things into a portal, right? And from the portal is the magical thing. that you're putting a banana over here, but it'll get offered to whoever demigod is the demigod that you want to offer. He will get that banana. To you, it might look the banana is all burnt and gone, right? And so there is a very nice cycle. And we find a lot of cycles in material nature. And for example, we see the water cycle, right? Water cycle is the sun shines on the oceans, it evaporates the water, it goes back up and becomes clouds. And then the clouds pour rain on the top of the mountains from the rivers. And on the mountains, rivers are formed, rivers go and join the ocean again. So it's kind of like a cycle, right? So we find cycles. What are the other cycles that you see in nature?
Birth cycle.
Janma Mrityu,
Birth,
Jara
Janma,
Vyadhi.
Janma Mrityu.
Jara
Jara.
Vyadhi.
Vyadhi is also a cycle?
No,
Maybe not, right?
Mm.
Yeah, so Jan, Mrityu, and Vyadhi, Jara, you can say is a cycle, right? Your birth, old age, and then death. Maybe not old age, you can die young also, like that, right? So there's a cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada always talks about the cycle of birth and death, right? And in the home also, there is a cycle. Like, for example, I had given you this cycle before, that there is a cockroach, and the cockroach is afraid of the lizard. The lizard is afraid of the dog. The dog is afraid of the master. The master, the man, the husband in the house. Husband is afraid of the wife, and wife is afraid of the cockroach. Right? So there's a cycle.
Wife is afraid of the one, Mataji.
Cockroach.
Cockroach, oh God.
But not all the time, Mataji.
Yeah, cycles get broken sometimes. So that's what the cycle is. And yeah, so there's a cycle. So here also in the yajna, there is a cycle. So the cycle is that you offer things into the yajna, you offer it to the demigods like Indra, and Indra will give rains. The rains will fall down, and then what will grow when rains fall down? Vegetables, right? And then you take some vegetables, but before you gobble all of it up, you will put some of the vegetables into the yajna, and you'll offer it to the demigods again. So this is the cycle.
Even grains also we
yeah.
do that.
Yeah. So that's the cycle that happens, right? And so I'm going to bring up a verse from Bhagavad Gita that we have done earlier. And let me share my screen here with you. So here it goes like this. Sayagya prajaha srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyatvam esha vostva ishtakamadhuk. This is in the beginning of the creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods along with the sacrifices for Vishnu and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and for achieving liberation." This is from the 3rd chapter, 10th number verse, right? So basically he's saying that, okay, I put you into this material world, my beloved part and parcel. But I'm also giving you. So yajna is something that has been there since the beginning. God has created this as part of the cosmos, right? And actually, in the Purushtras, it is said that Krishna himself offers himself into the yajna, and then all these cosmic manifestation happens. So, but for us, for now, right now, what we're focusing is that Krishna says in that verse that I have given you all these sacrifices. And then, if you perform these sacrifices, then you will get everything that you want for living happily. Because Arjuna was talking about happiness, kinno bhogena rajena. He was saying, how will I happy? How will I enjoy? Things like that, right? So that is what we want to be. We want to be happy because I am anandamayo abhyasat, right? I'm satchidananda. So it's a very natural thing for me to want to be happy. So, so then Krishna creates this thing, right? And so if you want something in your life, right? So there will be old age, there'll be disease, you mentioned, there could be famine, right? Couples can want to have a child, right? And I can want money. So I can do yajna for that also. And in that way, I'm using the portal to reach the demigods, because they control this material world. They'll be able to give it to me. So I'll get that, right? But the thing is that that is not what our aim should be. Our aim should not be to enjoy this material world. We should not be doing everything just for our purposes, right? However, what Krishna also told us, right, when it came to the yajnas there, he said that he was saying that when he talks in the 3rd chapter about the fact that he has set for generations of men and demigod, and also the yajna, the ritualistic sacrifices, he's saying you do those sacrifices. But then he's also saying that you have to do this sacrifice. You have to sacrifice to Vishnu. And he said that if people eat things without offering them to Krishna, they eat only sin, right? So they eat only sin. So that is why, it is a good practice to do the yajna, but our mood should be different when we are doing the yajna, right? So yes, you can do the yajna to gain certain things. All that is there, right? All that is there, but the main purpose of the yajna, is something very, very different, right? So Krishna is emphasizing this thing. And actually in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in verse number 4, Krishna asked him that, verse number 1, Krishna asked him that, Arjuna asked Krishna, Kim tad brahm kid adhyatmam, kim karma purushottama, adhi bhutam kadam kotra, right? So he's asking, who is adhi yajna, who is adhi, like that. He's asking all those kind of questions, and then Krishna answers, right? His question, 5 questions, I think Arjuna asks, and he answers all of them. And then he's saying that he talks about adhi yajna, right? So let me bring up that verse here for you, and then I'll start sharing the screen. So Krishna says, Adhi bhutam sharo bhavaha, purushacha adhi daivatam, adhi yajno aham evatra, deha deha bhatam vara. So he's saying, oh, best of the embodied beings, the physical nature, which is constantly changing, is called Adibhut, the material manifestation. The universal form of the Lord, which includes all the demigods, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adideva. And I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every embodied being, am called Adi Yajna, or the Lord of Sacrifice. Right? So Adi Yajna is inside the heart of every embodied being. And what Vishnu is that? In the heart.
Adideva. Adi.
No. Garbhodakshay, no, not Garbhodakshay, Karanodakshay Vishnu.
Karan means causal ocean.
Kshirodakasai.
Yeah, Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And Kshirodakshay Vishnu is like dual purpose. He's also lying in the Shir Udak, or the ocean of milk. And he's also in every, he expands and he goes into everybody's heart also, right?
Yes.
Kshirodakshay Vishnu. So where is that ocean of milk?
It is in the middle, on Dhruv planet.
Dhruv planet, exactly right. So it's on the Dhruv planet, right? So so he's there in everybody's heart as the yajna, right? So we have to, so in this particular verse, as we go deeper into it, Krishna will start talking about different kinds of yajnas. And in this chapter, as we go further, chapter 6 also, he'll talk about, different types of yajnas. But right now, he's just talking in general about that, the fact that yajna is of a spiritual nature. So some of the yajnas that we were talking about right now were not necessarily of spiritual nature. Right? Like if you're doing a yajna to get a son, if you're doing a yajna to get a daughter, if you're doing a yajna because I'm a king and there is famine in my kingdom, it's not a spiritual yajna. It is a material yajna, which is being done for our own purposes. Okay. So let us look at a story from Srimad Bhagavatam, which I think I might have already got ready for you. Yes, it's from the 10th canto, chapter 23. Okay. So here Krishna is there and the cowherd boys are there, and they are engaging in their daily pastimes. They go to the forest to, why do they go to the forest? What do they do in the forest? Why do Krishna and his cowherd boys go to the forest?
For herding the cows.
Yeah, for the cows. Yeah, for herding the cows and for cows to eat the grass, right? Cows need to eat, yeah, right? So the cowherd boy said, "Oh Rama, Rama, mighty armed one. Oh Krishna, chastiser of the wicked. We are being harassed by hunger and you should do something about it." Look at that. Isn't it interesting? Sukdev Goswami said, thus entreated by the cowherd boys, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Devaki, replied as follows, desiring to please certain of his devotees who were Brahmanas' wives. Lord Krishna said, please go to the sacrificial arena where a group of Brahmanas learned in the Vedic injunctions are now performing the Angira sacrifice to gain promotion to heaven. So what sort of a sacrifice is this? Spiritual or material?
Material.
Material. Very good. When you go there, my dear cowherd boys, simply request some food. Declare to them the name of my elder brother, the Supreme Lord Balram, and also my name, and explain that you have been sent by us. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cowherd boys went there and submitted their request. The cowherd boys said, "O earthly gods, please hear us. We cowherd boys are executing the orders of Krishna, and we have been sent here by Balaram. We wish all good for you. Please acknowledge our arrival." Lord Ram and Lord Achyuta were tending their cows not far from here. They are hungry and want you to give them some of your food. Therefore, O Brahmana, O best of the knowers of religion, if you have faith, please give some food to them. Except during the interval between the initiation of the performer of a sacrifice and the actual sacrifice of the animal, O most pure Brahmanas, it is not contaminating for even the initiated to partake of food, at least in sacrifices other than the Sautramani. The Brahmanas heard this supplication from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet they refused to pay heed. Indeed, they were full of petty desires and entangled in elaborate rituals. Though presuming themselves advanced in Vedic learning, they were actually inexperienced fools. Although the ingredients of sacrificial performance, the place, time, particular paraphernalia, mantras, rituals, priest, fires, demigods, performer, offering, and the as yet unseen beneficial results, all are simply aspects of his opulences, the Brahmana saw Lord Krishna as an ordinary human because of their perverted intelligence. They fail to recognize that he is a supreme absolute truth, the direct manifest personality of Godhead, whom the material senses cannot ordinarily perceive. Thus, bewildered by the false identification with the mortal body, they did not show him proper respect. When the Brahmanas failed to reply even with a simple yes or no, O chastiser of the enemy, Parikshit. So who's saying that to Parikshit?
Shukdev Goswami.
Shukadev Goswami, correct, for 500 points. And hearing what had happened, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the universe, simply laughed. Then he again addressed the cowherd boys, showing them the way men act in this world. Lord Krishna said, "Tell the wives of the Brahmanas that I have come here with Lord Sankarshan. They will certainly give you all the food you want, for they are most affectionate towards me. And indeed, with their intelligence, reside in me alone." Where do they reside?
In me,
In Krishna.
Krishna.
The cowherd boys then went to the house where the Brahmana's wives were staying. There the boys saw those chaste ladies sitting, nicely decorated with fine ornaments. Bowing down before the Brahmana ladies, the boys addressed them in all humility. The cowherd boys said, "Obeisances unto you, O wives of the learned Brahmanas. Kindly hear our words. We have been sent here by Lord Krishna, who is passing by not far from here. He has come a long way with the cowherd boys and Lord Balram tending the cows. Now he is hungry, so some food should be given to him and his companions." The wives of the Brahmanas were always eager to see Krishna, for their minds had been enchanted by descriptions of him. Thus, as soon as they heard that he had come, they became very excited. taking along in large vessels the 4 kinds of foods. Okay, question. What are the 4 kinds of food?
Food which can be
Sweet
licked,
or-
sucked, chewed.
Chew.
Food which can be chewed, which can be sucked and
Swallow.
swallowed. Yeah.
Swallow.
Drunk. Swallow everything. It just can be drink. It just
Drink.
can be
Drink.
liquid, like milk.
Quid.
Okay. So, right. So the 4 kinds of food. So although their husbands, brothers, and other relatives forbid them from going, their hope of seeing Krishna, cultivated by extensive hearing of his transcendental qualities, won out. Along the river Ramuna, within a garden decorated with buds of Ashoka trees, they caught sign of him strolling along in the company of cowherd boys and his elder brother, Balram. His complexion was dark blue and his garment golden. Wearing a peacock feather, colored minerals, springs of flower birds, and a garland of forest flowers and leaves, he was dressed like a dramatic dancer. He rested one hand upon the shoulder of his friend and with the other twirled a lotus. Imagine Krishna with a lotus in his hand and he's twirling it in his finger. Lilies grazed his ears, his hair hung down over his cheeks, and his lotus-like face was smiling. So Krishna has got these beautiful, very beautiful curly hair that come down, right? So there was a very interesting, let me just see, I'm still sharing the screen with you all or not?
Yes.
I'm still sharing, right? Okay, let me see. Okay. All right, this is good. All right, this is even better.
Urdu, Mama Athaji.
I know a little bit of Urdu, yeah. So, I grew up in Aligarh, remember? Okay, so this is the letter. Well, anyway, so here's the thing that sometimes in places where Urdu is speaking, people use sort of an antakshari, but antakshari in Urdu language. So they will start speaking couplets, and which will be conveying some method, right? So, one person. So there were 2 religions. There were Muslims and there were Hindu religions. And so the Muslim man got up and he said, he was defining the word kafir. Right, kafir is a non-believer, and according to them, Hindus are the kafirs. So he said, I'm forgetting what is Vishwas called in Urdu, but anyway, the sense is that jisko Vishwas nahi Islam par, right? Jisko Vishwas nahi Islam par, wo kafir hai, right? Which means that one who doesn't have faith in the in the Islam religion is a kafir or a non-believer, one who doesn't believe in God, right? So kafir wo hai, the one who doesn't have faith in Islam. And then there was a Hindu who also knew Urdu, and he spouted, and he was a Krishna devotee. So he said, Krishna mera hai, something like kale kale ye ghungrale, बाल मेरे कृष्णा के, जिसे प्यार नहीं इस्लाम से, काफिर वो है, right? So what he meant was that Krishna has got black hair, which is all curly, and his curly hair come like this, like the word lam, right? The word lam, which is the word L in the Urdu alphabet, Islam. So he's saying Islam, this lam. So one who does not love this lam is actually a kafir. So how beautifully he beautified and glorified Krishna's curly hair. And said, kale kale ye ghungrale, baal mere Krishna ke, jise pyar nahi Islam se, kafir wo hai. Same thing, So a play of words there. So I was just reminded of that all of a sudden. I don't know from where. Because he says his hair hung down over his cheeks and his lotus-like face was smiling. O ruler of men, for a long time, those Brahmana ladies had heard about Krishna, the beloved, and their glories. I heard. And his glories had become the constant ornament of their ears. Indeed, their minds were always absorbed in him. Through the apertures of his eyes, they now forced him to enter within their hearts, and then they embraced him within for a long time. In this way, they finally gave up the pain of separation from him, just as sages give up the anxiety of false ego by embracing their innermost consciousness. Lord Krishna, who witnesses the thoughts of all creatures, understood how those ladies had abandoned all worldly hopes and come here simply to see him. Thus he addressed them as follows with a smile upon his face. Lord Krishna said, "Welcome, O most fortunate ladies. Please sit down and make yourself comfortable. What can I do for you? That you have come here to see me is most appropriate." Certainly, expert personalities who can see their own true interest render unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service directly unto me, for I am most dear to the soul. It is only by contact with the self that one's vital breath, intelligence, mind, friends, body, wife, children, wealth, and so on are dear. Therefore, what object can possibly be more dear than one's own self? You should thus return to the sacrificial arena because your husbands, the learned Brahmanas, are householders and they need your assistance to finish their respective sacrifices. The wives of the Brahmanas replied, "O Almighty One, please do not speak such cruel words. Rather, you should fulfill your promise that you always reciprocate with your devotees in kind. Now that we have attained your lotus feet, we simply wish to remain there in the forest so that we may carry upon our head the garlands of tulsi leaves that fall from the lotus feet. We are ready to give up all material relationships. O husbands, fathers, sons, brothers, other relatives, and friends will no longer take us back. And how could anyone else be willing to give us shelter? Therefore, since we have thrown ourselves at your lotus feet and have no other destination, please, O chastiser of enemies, grant our desire." The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, "Rest assured that your husbands will not be inimical towards you, nor will your fathers, brothers, sons, other relatives, or the general populace. I will personally advise them of the situation. Indeed, even the demigods will express their approval. For you to remain in my bodily association would certainly not please people in this world, nor would it be the best way for you to increase your love for me. Rather, you should fix your mind on me, and very soon you will achieve me. It is by hearing about me, seeing my deity form, meditating upon me, and chanting my names and glories that love for me develops, not by physical proximity. Therefore, please go back to your homes." Srila Sukdev Goswami said, "Thus instructed, the wives of the Brahmanas returned to the palace of sacrifice. The Brahmanas did not find any fault with their wives, and together with them, they finished the sacrifice. One of the ladies had been forcefully kept back by her husband. When she heard the others describe the Supreme Lord Krishna, she embraced him within her heart and gave up her material body, the basis of bondage to material activity. Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, fed the cowherd boys with that food of 4 varieties. Then the all-powerful Lord himself partook of the preparations. Thus the Supreme Lord, appearing like a human being to perform his pastimes, imitated the ways of human society. He enjoyed pleasing his cows, cowherd friends, cowherd girlfriends with his beauty, words, and actions. The Brahmanas then came to their senses and began to feel great remorse. They thought, "We have sinned, for we have denied the request of 2 lords of the universe, who deceptively appeared as ordinary human beings." Taking note of their wives' pure transcendental devotion for Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing their own lack of devotion, the Brahmanas felt most sorrowful and began to condemn themselves. The Brahmanas said, "To hell with our threefold birth, our woe of celibacy, and our extensive learning. To hell with our aristocratic background and our expertise in ritual sacrifice. We are all condemned because we are inimical to the transcendental personality of Godhead." The illusory potency of Supreme Lord certainly bewilders even the great mystics, what to speak of us. As Brahmanas, we are supposed to be the spiritual masters of all classes of men, yet we have been bewildered about our own real interests. Thus, see the unlimited love these women have developed for Lord Krishna, the Supreme Master of the entire universe. This love has broken for them the many bonds of death, their attachment to family life. These women have never undergone the purificatory rites of twice-born classes, nor have they lived as brahmacharis in the ashram of the spiritual master, nor have they executed austerities, speculated on the nature of the self, followed the formalities of cleanliness, or engaged in pious rituals. Nevertheless, they have firm devotion to Lord Krishna, whose glories are enchanted by the exalted hymns of the Vedas, and who is the supreme master of all masters of mystic power. We, on the other hand, have no such devotion for the Lord, although we have executed all these processes. Indeed, infatuated as we are with our household affairs, we have deviated completely from the real aim of our life. But now we see how the Lord, through the words of these simple cowherd boys, has reminded us of the ultimate destination of all true transcendentalists. Otherwise, why would the Supreme Controller, whose every desire is already fulfilled and who is the master of liberation and all other transcendental benediction, enact this pretense with us, who are always to be controlled by him? Hoping for the touch of his lotus feet, the goddess of fortune perpetually worships him alone, leaving aside all others and renouncing her pride and fickleness. That, he begs, is certainly astonishing for everyone. All the aspects of sacrifice, the auspicious place and time, the various items of paraphernalia, the Vedic hymns. So give me the name of one item of paraphernalia for the yajna in Sanskrit. One item of paraphernalia for yajna in Sanskrit.
Havi.
Havi, yes, good. The Vedic hymns, the prescribed rituals, the priests and the sacrificial fires, the demigods, the patron of the sacrifice, the sacrificial offering, and the pious results obtained, all are simply manifestations of his opulences. Yet, even though we have heard that the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, the Lord of all mystic controllers, had taken birth in the Yadu dynasty, we were so foolish that we could not recognize Sri Krishna to be none other than him. Let us offer our obeisances unto Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His intelligence is never bewildered, whereas we, confused by his power of illusion, are simply wandering about on the paths of fruitive work. We were bewildered by Lord Krishna's illusory potency, and thus we could not understand his influence as the original personality of Godhead. Now we hope he will kindly forgive our offense. Thus, reflecting on the sin they had committed by neglecting Lord Krishna, they became very eager to see him, but being afraid of King Kamsa, they did not dare go to Vraja, right? So you see this classic example of how, a sacrifice was done both by the Brahmanas as well as by their wives, right? So they were engaged in a purely materialistic way. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about that. And I think I might have that open. Is it here? No, not this one. Chapter 2, I think it's verse 42 or 43. Okay, I didn't have that open. Let me open it here. Bhagavad Gita 2.42-43. Yeah, there we go. 42-43. And it's a very beautiful verse. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipaschitaha vedavadaratah partha nanyad asti vadinaha astiti vadinaha kamatmana swargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogeshwarya gatim prati. And so what does this mean? Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this, right? So can you give me an example of men of small knowledge that you heard of recently?
These Brahmanas.
These Brahmanas, exactly, right? So you see how Bhagavatam is, Bhagavad Gita tells you about the philosophy, and then Bhagavatam gives you the example of that, right? So here they're talking about men of limited intelligence, small knowledge, right? And they were attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, and that is what the Vedas say, right? That if you do this, that's going to happen.
You
You're
get this.
You get that, right? And it's going to be nice and easy life for you there. Right?
Even Kali Yuga also, Mataji.
Sorry?
So
But
even now also.
Yeah. That's why
Man
Bhagavad Gita was spoken
is-
now, right?
No, not now like that. But if anybody comes for food or something, the housewife goes and she offers. So that's how they're built up, like I think, because they don't feel that much. But they say right away, but later on they might feel. But in the beginning, they may not. And if somebody comes, like these boys, cowherd boys came and asked for it as a food, what the Brahmanas said, no, not like that, But wives didn't say like that.
Yeah.
The lady, usually, mostly lady, she gives, if
They're
anybody
simple-hearted. Yeah, they're
food,
simple-hearted. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
simple-hearted.
Yeah.
Hare
And then-
Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah.
One question came to my mind. I don't know whether I'm right in asking this question or not. Mataji, you just now mentioned that Lord in the form of Paramatma lives in our heart. He is also a yajna. How is that? Or I heard it wrong. I don't know.
I was saying that he also lives in our heart, and then he also lives in Shirodakshay Vishnu, right? As in the Dasi Sagar, which is in the which is the Dhruv planet, right? And Adhi Yajna. So Yajna is another name for Krishna. Yajna, right? Yajna is another name for Krishna. And Adhi Yajna is that, he's the original Yajna. He's the original Yajna. Yeah, he's the original Yajna. And then also, he'll say in chapter 5th, when you come to there, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Bhuta Maheshwaram Suhrida Sarva Bhutana Gyatma Mam Shanti Vrichyati. So they says that that person will be peaceful, the person who understands that Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, that the real and the ultimate enjoyer of all sacrifices is Krishna. And Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. And to understand that he is the Maheshwar, he's the supreme controller of everything. Sarvaloka, all the lokas, he's the controller. Once we get that understanding, because who are we? We are little controllers. We try to control this, we try to control that, right? I was thinking this, I was thinking I will do this, I was not able to do this, and now I'm unhappy, and so on and so forth. So, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Suhrid Sarva Bhutanam. And to understand that I am Suhrid means friend. So I am in everybody's heart as their friend. This is a very important thing to understand, that Krishna is your friend, and to understand that God is a friend, because there are some religions who will portray God as, angry man, ready to punish you, send you to hell forever, and things like that, right? So here he's saying, Suhrid, I'm your friend, right? And what is the ultimate that we are trying to achieve? Love of God. So which is such a big contrast between, a God who I should be afraid of to a God that I love, right? And that's the beauty of the culture, the Indian culture that we have, right? And the Vedic knowledge that we have. It's telling you that. So, Surhit Sarva Bhutanam, Gyatma Mam Shanti Richati. If you understand that, then you will get Shanti, right? Like that. So in our so Bhoktaram, and then so in the verse that we are doing just now, and I think I stopped sharing. Yeah. So in the verse that we are doing just now, we said that the flowery men of small knowledge get dodged by the flowery, right? So Bhogashvarya Prasaktanam Tayapa Hrita Chetasam Vyavasatmika Buddhi Samadhana Vidhiyate, the very famous verse, right? In the mind, very, very important, in the minds of those who are attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Very simple thing. Very, very simple thing. So we have to get rid of the attachments. And then actually in the passage and narration that we were reading about the Brahmanas and his wife, and they said that they have given up that which leads to multiple birth and death. The cause of multiple birth and death is our attachment. That's what we read there. I don't know if you noticed that. So the more attached that we are to things material, the higher are our chances of coming back to this world again. Right? So we need to understand that, right? So anyway, so what Krishna has been telling, right? That in this particular verse, he's talking about a different kind of a sacrifice. So we have been reading about this and that sacrifice, and Krishna is going to tell Arjun something different and a very different twist to the sacrifice, right? I mean, we understand sacrifice, like for example, in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? Where opulences of Krishna are defined, right? So it says, Maharshi nam bhrigur aham giri nam asmi ekam aksharam yagya nam japa yagnosmi, right? So yagya nam japa yagnosmi. So he says that the best among all the yagyas is
Chanting the holy name of the Lord.
chanting the holy names of the Lord, yaga, right? So this is also a sacrifice. So sacrifice is not just, that there will be a fire kund in the middle and that you start pouring things inside it, right? So not like that. So this is now, so when you're understanding that you're doing japa, so again, you are still thinking about in terms of devotional service, right? I mean, devotional, you've got a bead in your hand, right? And not everybody goes around with a bead in their hands, right? If you have a bead in your hand, you're doing something for God. And it's a done and understood thing, right? But Krishna is now taking the concept of sacrifice to an even higher level. Okay, so now let's go back to our verse. Having looked at different kinds of sacrifices, let's go back.
Prabhupada told us to chant. We cannot do yajnas like before in Kali Yuga.
Yes.
So this is kind of his yajna he told us to do.
Yeah, that is true. And then also remember that people used to chant the holy names of the Lord even in the other yugas also. It's not that they only do yajna, only do meditation. What are you doing in meditation? Inside the meditation, like they will be chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Buddha was meditating, right? But what was he meditating on? On the holy names of the Lord. So that chanting concept is still there. But what we are saying now here is that in the Kali Yuga, it is so bad that you can't sit and meditate on the names. You cannot do yagyas. You can't even go to the temple, right? And then, so that's why we're saying that you just sit there wherever you are and then you chant the holy names of the Lord. So he's saying that it is.
We cannot go to a forest and do tapasyas like before.
Yeah. So continuing on, we are seeing here. So here, Brahmarpanam Brahma Have Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam Brahmeva Tina Gantavya Brahma Karma Samadhina. So now Prabhupada is explaining it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses in chapter 4. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. Right? So this verse is just describing the principle. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curds. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yajna, or the activities, sacrifices, simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. What is the Sanskrit for complete absorption?
Samadhina.
Samadhina. The word Brahma or Brahman means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyotir, his spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyotir. But when the Jyotir is covered by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together, Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter dovetail for the cause of absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Matter dovetail for the cause of the spiritual absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in Samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result of ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Right. So why is Krishna explaining this concept to Arjuna? Right. So he's saying that, he was talking about, if lupta pundo daka kriya, he said that in the first chapter, that if we stop offering the water offering that we do to our ancestors are going to fall down. Our community projects are going to be stopped. What about the rituals that people are following? So he was constantly and completely in the material thing that, if nobody's there to teach me how to pour, how much of ghee to pour, what should be the size of the yajna, how will we do? How will we survive, right? Because in chapter 3, Krishna said that people should do yajna. That now here in chapter number 4, Krishna is clarifying that doubt, and Krishna is saying that a very different concept. And actually he had alluded to that concept a little earlier in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going to just bring that up here, and which is an eye-opener for all of us, because a lot of people who are mothers, right, and who are about to give birth might just think, and a lot of mothers, with young kids, they come to me and they say that, how do I manage my life? I've got this kid. Before this kid was born, I could chant 16 rounds. I was attending classes. I was going to the temple. And now that I've got this kid, what do I do? Right? I've become a non-devotee. I've got fallen. I'm bad. And, what should I do? Right? Like that. So Krishna had said that in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, Karmaneva hi samsiddhim astitha janakadayaha loka sangraham evapi sampasyam kartumarhasi. Kings such as Janak attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work, right? And this is happening because in the 1st chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had told Krishna that, Krishna, I will not fight. But Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and he's a Grihastha, and he's also a prince. So he has got certain duties. His duty is to fight. And he's saying that I cannot fight. It's better for me to go to the Himalayas, give up everything, and then just, you are asking me, to use Buddhi Yoga to get connected to God. That's how you get connected to the God. Let me leave everything and go, right? But Krishna is now giving him a very different concept of yajna. So he's going to say, oh, for yajna, you think that there is a Havan Kund, there's a small Havan Kund, and you put your havi in there, right? You put your butter inside, and there's flames, and there's nice smell, and that's a yajna. I say, no. For you, my dear Arjuna, the yajna is this whole battlefield of Kurukshetra is your yajna kund.
Yeah.
That is your sacrificial arena, right? And in that, your ladle with which you're going to pour the havi, your ladle is going to be your Gandiva bow, right? And then who are you going to put in that? Who is the havi? The havi are your dear cousins, the Kauravas. This is your yajna.
Oh.
And when you do this, and remember in the subsequent chapters, he's going to say that I've already killed them all. Nimit matra bhava sabya sachin. You just be the instrument of killing them. I've already killed them. Look in my mouth, in my universal form, right? Churnita.
Elementary.
I'm crushing their heads, right? Within my teeth. This is what it is. They are already dying. They're destined to die. You can be, and I want them to die because why do I want them to die? And very interesting thing is that Arjuna in the first chapter is saying that we should not kill them, because if we kill them and if we kill our relatives and elders, what's going to happen, right? All these right community projects and this culture, etc., is going to go away. But if you pause a moment and if you think that if Arjuna had allowed the Kauravas to live, what do you think would have happened?
This Kali Yuga would have been, Mataji, a real Kali Yuga. Even now it is so much, you see, bad things happening. Things would have been worse.
Right? So people who are doing Chir Haran in an assembly,
Yes.
right, of their own daughter-in-law, or abating in that, or
Shraddha.
their sister-in-law, like that, So people, they are doing this. So he's saying that, if they die, what's going to happen to religiosity? And Krishna is saying, no, if they live, what's going to happen to religiosity? You have to think about that. So I want them to be dead for that reason. To establish religion, I come, and these are irreligious people, so they should go. So he's saying that now you have to kill them. And since Krishna wants it, so now this very act of killing people on the battlefield of Kurukshetra becomes an offering to the Lord, because it's something that Krishna wants. Now Arjuna is doing that for Krishna. So Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havir. So whatever he's offering becomes, his arrows become spiritual in nature. His twanging of the bow becomes spiritual. His killing becomes a spiritual act, because he's doing it for Krishna. And because everything that he's doing is a spiritual activity, he will not get the karmic reaction for that, because it's Dharma Arpanam Brahma Havir, Brahmaneva Gantavya. Everything, the result of this act, everything is going to be completely spiritual. So he's doing a twist there, right, to the concept of sacrifice. Varshana, are you asking a question? Mataji?
I was asking one question, but it just washed off my mind.
Okay, we'll come back. That's why we don't meditate. Kaliga, the mind is fickle. Yeah. So, So again, going back to, the question where people, a lot of mothers come and tell me that, how will I handle? I have so much of work to do. How will I handle? How will I raise the kid? What will happen to my devotional service? I used to do 10 chapters, 10 pages of Bhagavad Gita every day. Now with the child, what I do? No. Now your duties have changed. You have got a child. And if you spend your time with the child, teaching the child Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, making prasadam, cooking prasadam for the child, so that the child is eating Krishna conscious prasadam, Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havir. That is your yajna. That is your sacrifice. Even if you're not getting time to do the chanting, that is fine. You can play the chanting in the background. It'll get done, right? So these are phases that come in life. Sometimes we have busy phase. Sometimes we have a, hard phase. Sometimes it's an easy phase. These will come. And the beauty of this material world is that nothing is permanent. So if there are phases in your life which are very unhappy, those will go away. But also we have to remember that when there are phases in our life which are very happy, those also go away, right? So that's the understanding and the intelligence that we should have in our mind, right? Vindhyavali Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. This Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, every day when I offer prasadam to God, I always do this. Along with that, Marpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Kantavyam Brahmakarma Samadhina. Along with that, Aham Vaiswanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasritaha Pranapana Samayuktam Pachamyanam Chaturvidam. So I used to read both of them together. Every day I read that. I didn't know this much meaning was there.
Yeah. And that's the thing of being just ritualistic and then understand. And that is when we all bow down and say, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, because he brings us these essence, right? He teaches us through his translations to his purports. And the very interesting thing is that I talked about the realm, right? And the portal in between. So yajna is like the portal which connects the Martya Loka here to the Swargaloka there, right? And you offer things to Indra and like that, right? Now we have risen, right, to a higher level. Now we're saying, oh no, we're going to go to Golok Vrindavan. Who are the people living over there? Well, that's a spiritual world, right? So spiritual world is what? Made up of what? Sat, Chit, Anand.
Anand.
Right? So that is what it is made up of. And then here on this side, everything is made up of Panchbhuta. Prithvi, Jal, Tej, Vayu, Akash, and then so the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Man, right? Kam, mano, buddhi, reva, cha. So there is a difference between the two, right? So there is spiritual. So you can look at certain things from the constitutional purposes, from the constitutional aspect, and you can look at things from the purpose aspect or utility aspect. And what I mean by that is that if you look at this mouse, okay, if you look at this mouse, it is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? It is made up of that. And so this is a material object, right? If you look at the soul, on the other hand, the soul is Satchidanand. So constitutionally, soul is spiritual, this mouse is material. Then now comes the second thing, and that is the utilization. In what have you utilized certain things? That brings in another concept, and that is that if I were to take a material thing, which is made up of material, for example, bhoga. Bhoga is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? The bhoga that we offer to the Lord, it's material, right?
And then it becomes accidental.
Right. The very act, when you utilize that in the purpose of feeding the Lord, when you utilize that in the purpose of feeding Lord, it becomes spiritual. So now when Mataji is offering and reciting the prayer, Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havir, you will remember that tomorrow, that we talked about this today, that what I'm picking, the bangan, the bharta, or that aloo tomato sabzi or whatever, kheer, all that is material in nature, but because I have Brahma Arpanam, because of whatever I'm arpaning, whatever I'm offering becomes Brahma, when it is engaged in the service of the Lord. Like that, right?
I need to know that other sloka also, Mataji. Aham Vaiswanara Bhutva Praninam De.
Aham Vaishnavaro Bhutva, yeah, right. So the other word what you're saying is that you're offering that to Lord, right? And then from the 15th chapter, verse number 14 is what you're quoting. Aham Vaishnavaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Achrita Pranapan Samayukta Pachame Annam Chaturvidham. So what actually you are doing is, through this verse, you're actually thanking Lord Krishna, and you're looking a little further out, like 20 minutes from then, and you will be eating that prasadam, right? Mm-hmm. And at that time, you're saying that, when you eat that prasadam and how that prasadam is getting digested, right? How the digestion happens? It happens yadicha. Remember, we were talking about the word yadicha labha santushto. Yadicha means things that happen automatically without you having to put any endeavor into it. So here we are saying that digestion also is yadicha. It happens automatically. Whatever you put in the stomach, somehow the stomach acts on it, digests it, right? But here what we are saying is that, oh, Krishna, in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you have said, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. I become the fire of digestion. And then I mix with the two air, prana and apan, the outgoing breath, the incoming breath. So with that air and the fire of digestion, they all combine, pachame annam, to digest the. So we are saying, okay, this is food that I'm offering to you, Krishna. And because I've offered it to you, Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havi, it has become spiritual. And when I'm going to consume it, I will still need to digest it. And you, dear Krishna, will digest it for me. So we are showing our complete dependence on Krishna, that without Krishna's help, we cannot even digest our food. And when you have ill digestion, what happens, right? So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Varshanavati ji, okay? I thought.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
Mataji, when Lord Krishna told Arjuna to kill all the Kauravas, and he killed them, and all of them died. Mataji, they carried their karmas with them, and they, in the next birth, they had to suffer. So, Mataji, they must be somewhere here only.
It could be, yes. Yes. Karmana gahana. Gahana karmana gatihi. 4.17. Very difficult to tell. Very difficult to say, right? If somebody saw Krishna while they were dying, they're gone. Back to Godhead. So we don't know. Out of the, they had 13 Akshamani Senas, right? There are millions of people who were there. And who went back to Godhead, who died, who came back. But yes, there's only 5,000 years have gone by. 5,000 years means about 100 generations. Not a long time, right? I mean, if you look back at your life, it was a very short life, isn't it? It went by like this.
Yeah.
100 generations also go by
All
like
must have gone to all must have gone to spiritual world because they saw Krishna there.
Yeah, it's speculating, right? Not necessarily. It's a very big battlefield, right? Not necessary that everybody saw Krishna. And remember, there is elephants, there is horses, there are these chariots that are running. There's a lot of dust that goes up. They cannot see also. Yeah, it's not easy to see, right? So I would also like to bring up one more verse. So I'm kind of taking you towards the fact that when we engage ourselves in devotional service of the Lord, right? So then what happens is whatever we are offering, that also becomes transcendental in nature. Okay. Now our Bhagavatam, and this is from the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. I'm going to bring up the second verse from the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam. And then I'll open it up for discussions. Let me start sharing my screen here. Okay. So, okay, I'm trying to increase the font. Is it increasing? Okay. Rite ritam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. Rite ritam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatha bhaso tatha tamaha. So what does it say? Oh Brahma. So these are Chaturshloki Bhagavatam was spoken by Krishna to Brahma. And so in the second shloka, he's saying, oh Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality, know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Okay. So whatever appears to be of any value, if it is of without relation to me, has no reality. So that now brings us to the fact that when we say this world is Maya, what does it mean? Because somebody might say, Prithvi, what was that? Khammano buddhire vacha, right? And he says, bhinna prakriti ashtada.
Kammana buddhire vacha ahankaram miti me bhinna
Prakriti ashtada. So he's saying these are my 8 different energies. So 8 different, they are Krishna's energies. So they are Krishna's energy and you're calling it material. How can it be? Krishna is spiritual, right? So then this particular verse, today's verse, and then this Rite Ritam Yat Pratiyeta from the Srimad Bhagavatam are actually combining the two concepts together. And they are saying that, everything is Brahmanam. Sab Krishna lage. They say, right? So everything, this is also Krishna. And why I call it material? When I don't engage this in the service of Krishna, instead engage it in my own service, then the same thing becomes material. If I engage it in the service of Krishna, Brahma Arpanam Brahma Rahave, right? It becomes transcendental in nature. So that is what we have to keep in mind from this verse. Okay. So again, a word of caution here that when the Mayavadis talk about this, they will say Brahma and they'll say Brahma Jyotir. And then everything is Brahma Jyotir. So everything is not Brahma Jyotir. There's Krishna behind the Brahma Jyotir. Brahma Jyotir is the effulgence that is coming out of Krishna. And all these words are hanging on the material, on the Brahma Jyotir. So they're hanging there. They are in the spiritual realm. But the moment we try to use it towards our own gratification, then it becomes material in nature. So same thing with prasad, right? You cook aloo tomato or aloo matar, whatever, and then you eat it. Verily eat only sin. It's material. But the same thing you offer it to Krishna, it becomes spiritual because of the utility. Where did you utilize that? Okay. So I'll stop here and take some few reflections for the 4 minutes that are remaining here in our class.
This is very nice sloka, Mataji. Brahmarpanam.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you should all memorize it. I mean, we did a little bit of practice. Yeah, Sitapa?
I remember that sloka I do every day. But like I am saying, then Brahmarpanam, then Aham by Swanara Bhutva. Both the slokas I do every day, and I'm offering prasadam to God. But I didn't know this much, that the way I learned from today.
Yeah, and also you don't offer prasadam to the Lord. Prasadam means mercy.
Bhoga.
You offer bhoga, and then mercy comes from Krishna, that he's giving you his leftovers, and that's why we call it prasad.
That's
right. The prasad comes from God in various ways. Any merciful activity that God does for you is prasad. And let's hear from Sutapa.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, like, suppose we are cooking like 2-3 items, and like 2 items we cooked and we offered, but the other 2 we cooked later. So we offered like after 2 hours or so. Means not in front of Krishna, but like there is a deity, there's a picture near the near somewhere, and then we offered. So is it wrong? Means is it right or is it wrong?
Based on this, or what we discussed today, what do you think? I'm asking Sutapa.
It's right, Mataji, because you are offering to Krishna whenever is possible. I mean, it doesn't matter. You are offering this in the morning, or maybe after you did your deity worship or whatever. Maybe you are offering it after 2 hours or 3 hours, but at least you are offering.
At least you are offering, right? So you see, this is how we gradually progress in our devotional service. So at one level, we are saying at least she's offering, right? Even if she's offering 2 times to Krishna, right? And then and then the question is like, this was my main altar, and then I have a photo in my kitchen, and I offered it to the photo, right? So when you see deities in the temple, right? So when the deities are brought to the temple, the deities are, there's a big pran sthapana ritual that happens, right? They invoke the God, and he comes and recites. Before that, it's just material, right? Then God comes, and then it becomes deity, it becomes God, right? And what about the home? We never had any sthapana rituals. Nobody came and did elaborate yajna and called the deity and said, okay, come and sit in Sutapa's picture frame like that, right? So what happens at home is that the deity also comes by itself to reside in the pictures, because you are serving the deity for a long time. So, when you're doing your deity seva at home, don't think that it is any less than what is there in the temple. It's just that because you're in a home, you are grhastha, the rules have been relaxed a little bit. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether it's picture or what, you can even offer in your mind. So you can have, there were 6 forms, right? Metal, ornament, jewels on the sand, clay, like that. You can create the deity of the Lord in so many ways. Now, as you start developing, worshipping the deity and doing deity service, then you will develop a relationship with them. The deity will start manifesting to you, and you'll start seeing expressions on the Lord's face, depending on what you cooked or did not, right? And so once you do that, then you will say, okay, I offered the food to the Lord has had his food, I fanned him, all that, and now they have gone to sleep. And now suddenly, like, at 3 o'clock in the evening, I want to have some pakoras. So let me try some pakora. Like, oh, but I need to offer it to the Lord. And they'll say, oh, no, but he eats only in the evening. So you might resist or desist from doing these kind of activities. And it is for our own benefit. Because why? If we have a rule over there that, offer it properly to the deity, what it is ensuring in the ultimate is that we don't eat in between the meals. We don't eat in between the time so it is for controlling our senses. So the rituals, etc., are mainly for controlling our senses. I have noticed that whenever there is a festival and there is fasting that goes on till the night, I noticed that Vaisheshika Prabhu, he'll give his class, he'll give his lecture, and then there'll be prayer. Then everybody's like, my stomach is rumbling, and you can smell the good food, and people are already lined up outside. They already started moving, but some core people are still there. And then he goes on and on. One prasadam prayer, second one, third one, nectarian shlokas, like one more shloka. Oh, today. And you might just think like, he's cruel. Why is he doing that? But he does it to help us control our senses. Because the moment we put the first thing in our mouth after being hungry for the whole day, the senses are let loose like nobody's business. And then you will eat up twice of what you would have normally eaten. So that's how the senses are. So all these rituals, etc., are meant for sense control. And as long as we understand that, we are in good footage.
Thank you, Mataji, and I need to leave. Hari bol.
Don't eat. Yeah. Vashana,
Mataji, Vasudev had offered in his mind, he had given so many cows in charity. Yes, when he was born, Krishna was born.
Yeah.
And Mataji, Jana Mataji always tells, like you say, you have gone for even devotees' wedding or something, you have gone and they are giving, prasadam you are having there. And just offer it from the core of your heart, just offer it to the Lord there. And it will be offered. Don't worry. God is there. He will surely take it from you.
Where is God?
Then you start.
Where is
in
God?
My heart.
There you
in
go.
My heart.
Yep. Wherever you go, he follows you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have to be careful that we have to offer things that are offerable to Krishna.
Mataji, it is amazing that in 84, you see, lack of yonis, he is with us. And we still forget him. It is chi.
That chi is very nice. At some point in time, when we say chi, I used to hear my mom say that, chi. And I was very young. I was like, well, why is mom so disgusted with this? And now I know the chi. This material world is chi, complete. Yeah, unless we engage it, Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havir. Okay. So today you offered your sacrifice today by taking 2 hours of your weekend and offered it into the sacrificial arena of the Vedic studies. So you also did your sacrifice today. And I think now it's time for you to have your prasadam.
And for you too, Shraddha Mataji, you too, you talk so much. You need it for
you need more energy.
I should not do like 6 more prayers, right? Before I attack prasadam. All right. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hari bol.
So no class next Friday, right?
Picture na Mataji.
Class next Friday. Yeah. So also keep in mind that if I don't announce a class, it is happening.
Okay.
What I will announce are the,
if they are not happening.
Yeah, if they're not happening. Otherwise it will happen, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that. Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, so especially good to see Aruni Mataji. Finally, she found the rhythm, right? A few classes she was off with the time and all that and day and all that. So I'm happy to have her there. And Parul Mataji is also there with us. Very good. Yeah.
Mataji, did you see the picture? Vaisheshika Prabhu's picture?
Yes, I saw. Very nice. Yes.
Very good.
Which picture, Mataji?
Haha. Okay, you can post the picture, but I'll take your leave now.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shraddha Mataji.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Shraddha Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, good to see you.
Is there class this Sunday?
Class will be there on Sunday in the morning. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I won't be able to make it to the Yatra. I have work for India Yatra to do and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Oh yeah, I did my Yatra in Los Angeles. So that was a pleasant. Yeah.
Hare Krishna to everybody.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Danvat. Pranams.